Certainly, the absolute big-budget games have a little more weight in the industry, but in the modern age of indie and AA studios pushing the boundaries, there have been some real gems on offer. From gripping action to some ridiculously tempting plotline to... With that said, here are 15 AA games that are genuinely better than most AAA games. Let's dive in. If you're someone that saw my videos a while back, you've probably heard me gush about Outer Wilds. Probably some of the best AA game I've played so far. Soulframe. More like Discovery, but no fighting, no quest, just taking the best thing you can pull from game. Short time, keep it for the adventurer. Time to the Spacelands to the adventurer. Unfiltered explorer. No hand-holding. And the only thing that keeps you on a slightly shorter leash is a 22-minute time loop that resets everything, bringing you back to the start of the loop whenever the timer runs out. However, when the loop reboots, you end up losing infinitely less. You take all of your knowledge that you gained from your last run with you, so you learn to work around obstacles and solve puzzles better on your next attempt. Flying your ship, you will be bouncing between worlds in search of the secrets to an ancient, long-deceased alien species. It was such a stellar game that you would literally never experience the same course of gameplay twice. It was full of replayability and engaging gameplay for hours. For a dude who knows how to get shot in the face of video game zombies charging me at 80 miles per hour, Evil West is incredible. I was amazed at how good this game's combat felt and looked the first time I played it. It felt like an AAA title, not just in terms of looks, but in terms of joy as well. It's utter confusion in the best possible way. You can even paraphrase it as Doom, but with more Devil May Cry vibes. You are punching and shooting entrails out of ugly freaks. You have literally doing that left, right, and center endless. Not simple. It's not brilliant, doesn't feature a very strong plot, but frankly doesn't need one. The gameplay, and especially the finishers, is awesome. In fact, Disco Elysium is one of the best detective games I have played in what feels like a lifetime. A lesson in storytelling, optimization, action, puzzle. You are an amnesiac detective solving a murder, though Riz not the traditional find the clues and go out and hunt. This is now a game, asking the right questions and being around the right people in pursuit of narrowing down the list of suspects. You talk to the various characters, use skills based on an expansive skill tree, and make tough inferences based on the clues you find. Anyway, I should note that there's an awful lot of reading involved in the game, in text boxes and dialogues. If not, please treat this as a friendly reminder. It might not be for you. Well, in Disco Elysiums, it is more than just solving mystery. That journey as a whole is really the journey of self-discovery of you as a detective and you as an individual. Definitely a game you'll remember. That's a bet for me that you'll never forget that moment.
Some of that rubber stuck to the tiles right in front of the whirling in rags. This is point A. The driver started there, and then accelerated straight into the fence, left a hole big enough for the Franco-Nigerian cavalry.
Still Wakes the Deep is a very, very good survival horror type title where you play as this poor oil rig worker at the worst possible time. The whole rig is falling apart because of the proliferation of a huge storm in the sea, and all you can do is to survive every means necessary. And guess what? To make things even worse, a weird, unsolved mystery of some sort of sea monster rears its ugly head and have a fairly successful reign over the terrified sailors. For a AA, Still Wakes the Deep does certainly make a pretty sight, and it does a more excellent work than most of AAA video games in establishing a quality spooky ambience. Although don't go into this like you are playing Resident Evil. Rather than blasting after bullet into after monster, you'll spend a lot more time on platforming, avoiding, and puzzles. It is a far more narrative-driven experience where you actually feel the horror instead of just seeing it. Has a significant disturbing ambiance. It even toys with some phobias with dark passages, enclosed spaces, and a fear of heights. Gives a gentle blend of mystery, puzzle solving, and horror, and it does indeed work quite beautifully. Still Wakes the Deep is a very, very good survival horror type title where you play as this poor oil rig worker at the worst possible time. The whole rig is falling apart because of the proliferation of a huge storm in the sea, and all you can do is to survive every means necessary. And guess what? To make things even worse, a weird, unsolved mystery of some sort of sea monster rears its ugly head and have a fairly successful reign over the terrified sailors. For a AA, Still Wakes the Deep does certainly make a pretty sight, and it does a more excellent work than most of AAA video games in establishing a quality spooky ambience. Although don't go into this like you are playing Resident Evil. Rather than blasting after bullet into after monster, you'll spend a lot more time on platforming, avoiding, and puzzles. It is a far more narrative-driven experience where you actually feel the horror instead of just seeing it. Has a significant disturbing ambiance. It even toys with some phobias with dark passages, enclosed spaces, and a fear of heights. Gives a gentle blend of mystery, puzzle solving, and horror, and it does indeed work quite beautifully.
Ты в порядке, Игорь?
Да. Спасибо, Оливер.
Remnant 2 deserves some love. A stunning Souls-like that not only nails the single player, but enhances it with an excellent multiplayer experience. The best part? You can experience the entire game co-op along with a friend, and it is so worth it. The thing, at least for me, that sparkled more than the rest was the replayability. The enemies are refreshingly diverse, and while you may go grimly spitting involuntarily bile at the screen when they beat your character, the boss fights will most certainly be challenging yet rewarding. None of these feature anything akin to this co-op looter shooter. This is how you do a sequel, baby. But an improvement on the last game, at that. An expansive and secret lore-rich world, along with a ton of roguelike elements to make the grind endless fun. It expands on almost every aspect in which the first one succeeded, stuffing in more classes, more enemies, and more quests. But it will not be for everyone. It's a true Souls-like. So take on something new, and prepare yourself to dig in and hone that skill. As far as single-player story-driven based games, the A Plague Tale are pretty hard to beat. From top to bottom, a real classic Innocence was a huge hit, but the trauma is definitely an upgrade from the already passion of the already heart-rending storyline. You once again step in the shoes of young brother and sister souls trying to survive in a world plagued with mutated killer rats always on the run from a never-ending Inquisition army. Stealth is an enormous portion of the gameplay in which you will definitely have to find clever ways to get past passports while also evading the rat swarms. However, Requiem does leave a bit more space for proactivity, either by storytelling guards as Amicia or by making use of Hugo's newly gained abilities. Still one of my favorite single-player experiences ever. Mind you, this includes big-budget AAA games.
Come on, Basilius, give us something. He's worth it, I promise. I beg you. Damn wreck. Hey!
Call of Juarez Gunslinger, one of my most cherished linear experiences from the time period. This feels like a take on a more classic Western game, Red Dead Redemption, if it was an arcade game. The plot is surprisingly compelling though, and despite being linear, you never feel constrained. Read descaled version here. I did not, however, realize how emotional it would be, and there are some gut punches. The play might not be hyper-realist, but honestly it's just so fun, and constantly throwing new things at you as you progress through the game. One moment you're shooting wave after wave of baddies, the next you're dueling gunslingers in close quarters. The cell-concealed imagery still actually looks incredible today, adding it an everlasting aesthetic that seems to be just as appropriate now as it did then. It is the pace of play to its variety of formats and scenarios that keeps it fresh and challenging and never tiring. Especially if you like of westerns, Call of Juarez Gunslinger is a need to have in case you need a pleasant story with a shooting matchup covered in it.
Can't hide forever! Though it wasn't easy, as those boys had good cover.
Firewatch is a first-person adventure set in the Wyoming wilderness and features Fire Lookout within the name of Henry you collect. You spend days hiking the woods and talking to your boss Delilah for radio, learning about odd events, and another mystery. I really enjoyed this game. Average voice acting and some pretty decent environments and surfaces. However, it is less about experiencing play than the transfer of a narrative from A to B, and it is always a pleasure. I adore the narration, but I'd argue that the conclusion doesn't quite land. But I came to terms with it a few years later. The story began to coalesce, the swallowing to feel more plausible and relatable. It's a game that occasionally comes up in my thoughts. Do not go in expecting some epic grand adventure, survival crafting. Just know, it's less an exercise in storytelling. If those two games tickle your fancy, this will probably also do the same for you. A story exploration, discover through your surroundings game that takes you through the Finch household and narrates the disturbing tale of Edith Finch himself, giving players the chance to take part in each family member's last moments. As you play as Edith, you explore the riddle earmarked Finch family house, the bowels where every dead Jeffrey uncle ensconces. The areas are where you be and every dead family member's ooksor stories played in a captivating but strange way. Even the best narrative games mix things up every little while. But with each of the 4 stories bringing such different gameplay styles to the table, this game stays fresh throughout. Something that sets Edith Finch apart is how it can be truly sad while feeling unmanipulative. It strikes a nice balance between exploration and guiding players through its poignant narrative. If deep, personal, immersive storytelling is your thing, this game is a must-play. Atomic Heart is a crazy game, and I mean it in a good way. The setting of Akane Change of a Fate is an alternate Soviet time when this secret experiment happened. They are making robots into zombies and crazy shit. The objective, a little bit of ghost hunting in ancient buildings, engaging with bizarre foes, and discovering what went awry. Which probably sounds horrific, but Atomic Heart is not really a horror accessibility game. The game is heavy on action, and it serves you a massive tray of sci-fi weaponry to sever the limbs of these vile monsters. However, the real high point of Atomic Heart is in its action. Its brutal, bloody deaths and outrageously pleasing kills. No encounter feels meaningless, and the diversity of weapons keeps things fresh. Let us not forget that it looks pretty damn good too, for a AA game. Good animations, good environments. If warped narrative-driven, weird sci-fi shooters with terrifying creatures sound like your bliss, you need to play Atomic Heart. Like all RPGs, the kinds of jokes vary by culture, but Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of those games every one of us needs to own. One of those common real-life representations RPGs where you are not a reason-that-fabled hero, rather, the workaday blacksmith's child. KCD is all about realism. Everything you have to do from scratch, manually. All areas of gameplay, from fighting to everyday tasks, are more grounded in reality. This game is a blend of the best life, simulating elements of medieval survival, combat, and exploration. The Lice combat system you can obtain licenses for can be quite brutal, but rewarding. And it's really not that much faster than a traditional hack-and-slash RPG. Slower, more methodical pace, and all meme. But it's not just combat. Everything is very slower burn than the rest of the game. There are long, lengthy dialogues and a complicated, atmospheric story wherein you must learn to navigate this political landscape that is brutal, with choice after choice that seems to go right for you, only to have your morals challenged and your sanity tested. This game isn't easy. Far from it, but it's where its satisfaction lies. And I'm sure you guys also remember Stray, the cat game that everyone had heard about at least once during the last gaming season. It just brilliantly communicates the journey of a cat trying to get home in a world riddled with technology. Essentially, the story of bopping around a cool cyberpunk city, doing puzzles and platforming, or just doing cat stuff and knocking things over. It can even rub against robotics and purr when you scratch its back. One of those games, the one with a certain feeling to it, the atmosphere of a cyberpunk-style city, played on a rainy night when you feel like letting off steam. While not breaking the mold for the genre, it strikes a good mix between emotion and fun through a mostly solid narrative. If you missed this one, the time may be right to go deep. I should say, right before Kenna Bridge of Spirits started, I was totally tricked. It looks deceptively chipper on the surface, the Pixar-y visuals, the Annette talkie running around adorably, but don't be me and be fooled. This game is far from easy, savage and unforgiving when preparing for war. Even on normal, the enemies were merciless, and hunters, you'll die a lot if you're not keeping your wits about you at all times. The boss and mini-boss fights are punishing, but also feel fair. This is just about understanding patterns and staying sharp. It takes a while to get used to. This is all if you can accept the challenge. The game rewards you with everything and more. The movement feels fantastic, the environment is so striking, and even when you prompt to go from one location to another, the music softens to a change just enough to draw you into the mood even further. It is one of those titles that walk that line of grace and of despair.
Wow, great shot.
But that said, the needle of regular puzzle games is a surprisingly fat one, and the Talos Principle may well have its unique, dappled niche in the much wider puzzle game haystack. Granted, the first game was perhaps a little too well noted once more. The Talos Principle 2, and, as if that were of any importance, trust me, this is no ordinary puzzle game. Your puzzles are cerebral, but you use them in a lot more than just the basic puzzle-solving cheat. An investigation into consciousness, into humanity, into life, just the realization of how small we are, how fast things can change. Just a reminder of how little we know about the universe. Not puzzles you can discard from in 30 seconds. Clearly the developers put in some time here. You could leave after one of these and feel very Einstein-y. That is so difficult to articulate that the challenge is you going to home. You won't regret it. We hope you liked this list, and that would be it from our end. We know there are many more fantastic AA games out there, but below are 15 that deserve some space here. Leave a comment down below of games you'd like to see me play in a sequel. Comment some of your favorites below. If you would like to find this video useful, please give me a subscription on my channel. I posted this kind of content multiple times per week. That's it for today. Really have to go now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.